A quiet street in Cleveland, Ohio. A man in his 60s steps out of a modest red brick home, lunchbox in hand, heading to his shift at the Ford plant. To his neighbors, he's John Demjanjuk, a kind, soft-spoken family man, a Ukrainian immigrant who fled war and built a life in America. But in the eyes of others across the ocean, he's something else entirely. Ivan the Terrible, the sadistic guard of Treblinka, the man who ran the gas chamber engines that murdered thousands. When the accusations emerge, the story sounds impossible. How could an ordinary auto worker from Ohio become one of the most feared men of the Holocaust? John Demjanjuk was born on the 3rd of April 1920 in a small Ukrainian village under Soviet rule. As a young man, he's drafted into the Red Army, but in May 1942, during the Battle of Kerch, he's captured by the Germans. Most Soviet captives never return. But Demjanjuk does, not home, but to the SS training camp at Treblinka, where prisoners are taught to serve as guards in Nazi concentration camps. By early 1943, his name appears on a roster of guards sent to Sobibor, an extermination camp built solely for mass murder. After the war, he disappears into the chaos of Europe. In 1952, he arrives in the United States as a displaced person, marries, and becomes an American citizen in 1958. For 20 years, his life seems unremarkable, until investigators come knocking. In 1975, the U.S. Department of Justice creates the Office of Special Investigations to hunt former Nazi collaborators hiding in America. A list compiled by a Ukrainian-American editor lands on their desks. Dozens of names of alleged war criminals. Among them, John Demjanjuk of Cleveland, Ohio. Officials examine his 1951 immigration papers. On one line, he had written that he lived in Sobibor from 1937 to 1943, an alarming clue. Soon, Israeli investigators join in. Holocaust survivors from Treblinka are shown a photo lineup. Several point at Demjanjuk's face. In August 1977, the U.S. government moves to revoke his citizenship for lying about his wartime past. By 1981, a federal judge agrees. His U.S. citizenship is stripped. 2 years later, Israel issues an extradition request. And on February 28, 1986, John Demjanjuk is flown under guard to Jerusalem. When Demjanjuk steps into the courtroom in late 1986, the world is watching. He sits inside a bulletproof glass booth, the same used for Adolf Eichmann a generation earlier. Prosecutors accuse him of being Ivan the Terrible of Treblinka, the man who started the diesel engines that pumped poison gas into chambers where 800,000 Jews were murdered. The evidence: a Treblinka ID card bearing his name and photo, and the testimony of more than a dozen survivors. The survivors point at the man behind the glass and weep. "This is him," one says. "I can never forget that face." At first, Demjanjuk is defended by an American attorney, Mark J. O'Connor. But in July 1987, just before Demjanjuk is to testify, O'Connor is abruptly fired. And then, a shocking twist. An Israeli lawyer steps forward to take the case. His name is Yoram Sheftel, a young flamboyant defense attorney from Tel Aviv. The Jewish public is outraged. Why would an Israeli, whose own family suffered under the Nazis, defend the man accused of running Treblinka's gas chambers? But Sheftel sees the case differently. To him, defending Demjanjuk is defending the rule of law itself. Sheftel's defense centers on one argument: mistaken identity. He insists the Treblinka card is a Soviet forgery and that the eyewitnesses, traumatized, have misidentified the wrong man. After 2 years of emotional testimony, the verdict arrives. On April 18, 1988, the judges read their decision. The accused is Ivan the Terrible, Without hesitation and with utter conviction, John Demjanjuk is sentenced to death by hanging. But history isn't finished with John Demjanjuk. While he waits on death row, the Soviet Union collapses, and its secret archives open. In 1991, new documents surface in Moscow. They name another man, Ivan Marchenko, as the real Ivan the Terrible. The files include physical descriptions, different eye color, different scars. Israel's Supreme Court reopens the case. On 29th of July 1993, it overturns the conviction. The judges admit there is reasonable doubt. Demjanjuk may have been a guard elsewhere, perhaps at Sobibor, but not the monster of Treblinka. After 7 years of imprisonment, he is freed. The man once sentenced to die walks out of court. Boarding a plane back to Ohio. In the years that follow, Demjanjuk tries to live quietly, but new evidence ties him again to the Sobibor extermination camp. In 2009, Germany requests his extradition. He is flown to Munich, now a wheelchair-bound old man on trial once more. This time, prosecutors charge him not as a monster of myth, but as a single cog in the machinery of genocide. In May 2011, the Munich court convicts him as an accessory to the murder of 28,060 Jews. He is sentenced to 5 years in prison. Too sick to serve his term, he is released pending appeal. On 17 March 2012, John Demjanjuk dies in a nursing home in southern Germany, aged 91. Because his appeal was still pending, he remains legally innocent. But his case sets a historic precedent that simply serving as a guard in a death camp is enough for criminal guilt. He lived as a farmer, a soldier, a prisoner, an immigrant, and an accused mass murderer. John Demjanjuk's life remains one of the most tangled sagas of the 20th century. To his family, he was an innocent man destroyed by politics. To survivors, he was a symbol of cruelty that could never truly die. And to the law, he became the test case for how far justice can reach, even when the truth is blurred by time. Was he Ivan the Terrible, or just an ordinary man caught in the shadow of history?